The high-stakes world of professional sports has led many people to take unthinkable risks in the hope of getting ahead. Today we're going to look at 10 of those athletes who got caught cheating and paid the price for their action. Number 10. Sammy Sosa. Sammy Sosa was a legendary Chicago Cubs outfielder who remains to this day an indelible part of sports history. With over 600 career home runs, he was also the first player to hit 66 home runs in a single season. Slammin Sammy, as he was popularly known, captivated people all over the United States with his ability to launch the ball hundreds of feet through the air with mighty swings of his bat. But his career was also marred by accusations of foul play. In 2003, Sosa was at bat against the Tampa Bay Devils when he hit a ball so hard that it snapped his bat in two. Even though he was known for his mighty bat blast, this was still a little suspicious to officials who retrieved the pieces of Sosa's bat and quickly discovered that it had been hollowed out and filled with cork. This highly illegal practice is used to lighten the bat, meaning that a powerful batter can achieve greater speeds with less resistance. In the aftermath, nearly 100 bats belonging to Sosa were tested and no others were ever found to contain cork. According to him, he used the corked bat in practice and never meant to bring it on the field that day. While no one may ever know for sure, the incident left a permanent blemish on the career of a baseball legend. Number 9. Sal Alosi. On December the 12th, 2010, the New York Jets squared off against the Miami Dolphins. When, with 2 minutes and 58 seconds left in the third quarter, New York Jets strength and conditioning coach did something unthinkable. As number 28 Miami's gunner Nolan Carroll was speeding along the sidelines, Alosi decided to seize the opportunity to stick out his knee, effectively tripping Carroll and sending him tumbling to the ground. The 203-pound cornerback laid on the ground for several moments as doctors came to assess him. Thankfully, in the end, he was alright and was able to return to the game. However, when the footage was re-examined, Alosi's actions came to light and he was fined $25,000 and suspended for the remainder of the 2010 season. Number 8. Hand of God. Diego Armando Maradona was an Argentinian footballer from the mid-1970s until the mid-90s, but one of the most memorable moments in his career occurred during a 1986 quarterfinal match between Argentina and England. You see, what happened here was Maradona scored a seemingly impossible goal, but upon closer examination it became clear that he had used his hand and not his head. Both referees agreed that the goal was good, but many fans in the English team contested it. Maradona stood by the goal for nearly 2 decades. In 2005, however, Maradona confessed publicly on his TV show, saying that he knew all along that he had scored with his hand. In this case, Maradona managed to get away with it entirely scot-free. Number 7. Julie Miller. The 2015 Canadian Ironman competition was said to be another in a long line of wins for Suzanne Davis, who is leading the triathlon event by nearly 10 minutes. But as she honed in on the home stretch, another runner materialized out of nowhere. This mystery runner was Julie Miller, and Davis wasn't the only one who was surprised to see her. Most of the spectators and even fellow runners couldn't recall seeing Miller advance. What followed was a 3-week-long investigation that eventually concluded that Miller had, in fact, skipped large portions of the course, allowing her to finish in an impossibly quick time. Following this discovery, she was disqualified, and Suzanne Davis took her rightful spot as the winner. Number 6. Luis Resto, the boxer. Luis Resto was an up-and-coming professional boxer when he squared off against Billy Collins Jr. at Madison Square Garden. Collins was undefeated and a definite favorite to win. However, as the match went on, Resto laid a vicious beating into his opponent. After 10 rounds, Resto emerged the clear winner. Across the ring, Collins sat badly injured, but when Collins' father tried to be a good sport by shaking Resto's hand, he noticed something wasn't right with his glove. Collins' father immediately alerted officials, who seized the gloves and began to investigate. As they did, they discovered that an ounce of padding had been removed from each glove. While that might not sound like a lot, it meant that Collins was almost being beaten with bare knuckles instead of the padded gloves approved for use. Collins was severely injured in the incident, suffering a torn iris and permanently impaired vision. His injuries prevented him from ever fighting again. Broken both physically and emotionally, he fell into a deep depression, and after turning to alcohol, he perished in a car accident just under a year after the fight. Nearly 24 years after his death, Luis Resto made a tearful public apology for his actions and revealed that he had also soaked his hand wraps in plaster before the fight. This confession meant that Resto had basically been beaten with rocks and suffered injuries far greater than any other athlete should ever endure in a sanctioned fight. Number 5. Paralympics Frauds. The Paralympic Games exist to give opportunities to athletes with disabilities who excel in physical pursuits. And until 2000, that included individuals with learning disabilities who met multiple criteria, one of which was to have an IQ lower than 75. One of the events featured at the Paralympics is men's basketball, and in 2000 all eyes were focused on the Spanish team who took gold in a triumphant win against the Russians. Unfortunately, it turned out that not everything was on the up and up, as it turned out the Spanish Federation for Mentally Handicapped Sports had allowed players without disabilities to take part in the games. This included 10 out of the 12 members of the Spanish basketball team. As a result of their actions, Spain was stripped of 5 medals and the Paralympics stopped hosting events for the intellectually disabled until 2012. Now granted they did return, but the events returned with stricter qualifications and a better screening process. Number 4. Olympics Twinsies. This next entry sounds like the plot of a sitcom or a movie, but it is completely true. The year was 1984 and the Summer Olympics were being held in Los Angeles, California. Madeline de Jesus was a track star competing for Puerto Rico. Madeline was a gifted athlete who was known for her performance in the long jump and triple jump events. However, when the time came for the 4x400 meter relay, Madeline was unable to compete after she had injured herself during an earlier long jump event. This would have been a devastating setback for most professional athletes, but Madeline had a pretty shady plan. As it turns out, Madeline was an identical twin, and her sister Margaret de Jesus was waiting in the wings to rescue her sister. The two of them hatched a plan to switch spots. The plan meant that Margaret, not Madeline, would run the qualifying heat for the race, but while some onlookers may have been fooled, the head coach for the Puerto Rican team noticed immediately after the race. That is when the plot was uncovered. Their coach immediately withdrew his team from the finals. In the end, though, there was very little consequence for the twins, and today Madeline lives in Belgium where she works as a sports teacher and coach. Number 3. Anthony Gaskell. Running a marathon has become a commonly used metaphor for exhausting activities, and let's face it, many people could never finish one regardless of age. So when 69-year-old Anthony Gaskell finished the London Marathon in record time, he became a symbol of virility to elderly athletes everywhere. Gaskell had run the London Marathon in the fastest time ever recorded by a pensioner, but he wasn't necessarily on the up and up. He had located a portion of the course where it doubled back on itself, and this provided him with an opportunity to jump over the railing and shave nearly 10 miles off the course. Realizing this, it's pretty easy to see how he recorded such a stunning time while his competitors were compliant to the rules of the event. Gaskell was briefly awarded the win and title of fastest pensioner, but after 6 weeks and a bit of investigation, officials realized what had happened and he was stripped of his title, leaving second place Colin Rathbone as the victor. So, did he ever confess to his wrongdoings? Well, not exactly. In fact, according to Gaskell, he had been injured when he tripped over a fellow runner. After realizing he was too injured to continue, he took a shortcut to the finish line to gather his things. According to Gaskell, he had no idea that anyone thought he had won. I'll leave that up to you in the comments below to decide if he's in the right or not. Now it's time for today's best pick. My pick for today may be one of the strangest. Number 2. Raquel Pinto. Raquel Pinto is a Portuguese athlete who is renowned for her tumbling and trampoline skills. Athletes in these events are pushed to their absolute limits, physically and oftentimes emotionally. In fact, many gymnasts begin training as early as 2 years of age. This high emphasis on physical form leads many athletes to take shocking measures to remain compliant. At the 26th European Championships, Pinto showed up to weigh-ins wearing her regulation gear. However, underneath she had specially cut layers of conductive material, a heavy fabric that can be used in technological processes. You see, the main thing to know about conductive fabric is that it contains metal and can be very, very heavy. By wearing the specialized fabric, Pinto was able to meet weight requirements, but before competing she shed the extra fabric and was able to compete at a lighter weight. This allowed her more movement and was less resistant when completing her stunning routine. Because the added weight was removed prior to suspicions rising about the looser fit of her outfit, officials were unable to penalize her. We've heard of some downright scandalous cases of cheating today, but our number 1 may just be the worst one yet.
I saved the best for last, but first, I have a quick challenge that takes only 5 seconds to complete. If you can leave a like and subscribe within the next 5 seconds, you'll get 10 years of amazing luck. Just try it, it really works.
Number 1. Tim Donaghy. In 2007, the FBI was conducting an investigation into low-level mob activities surrounding gambling when their investigation led them to a man named Tim Donaghy. Donaghy wasn't your average low-level bookie. In fact, he was an NBA official with a nasty gambling habit that had landed him in deep debt. Desperate to climb out of his financial hole, Donaghy had taken to a risky habit of betting on games that he officiated. As the situation snowballed, he wound up at the center of what U.S. Congressman Bobby Rush called one of the most damaging scandals in the history of American sports. Rush had begun passing information to bookies in exchange for money, and of course because he was a referee, he was capable of swaying the outcomes of certain games by making calls and penalties that would affect the desired outcome. Donaghy was able to make quite a lot of money with this arrangement, but as usual, the truth eventually caught up with him. And following a lengthy FBI investigation, he was sentenced to 15 months in jail and made to pay back tens of thousands of dollars to the FBI. Have you ever cheated to get ahead in a game? And no, not a video game, an actual physical game. Did we miss your favorite scandal? Let us know in the comment section down below. See you all next time, everybody.